let's talk about blue chip art. We're not going to go through the top sales, etc. But Jared, any notable sales that you want to highlight?
Honestly, man, it was a little bit of a struggle to find some notable sales this week. It's been really slow, but I call it a mini run on anti-cyclones. Somebody came in and swept up a ton. There was a rarer Fredenza palette that sold for 51 ETH, a really cool floor ringer to Suzanne NFT. But again, just propagating what we've been saying for weeks. Put those wrapped ETH bids out. I saw two really cool velvet palette memories, which I feel is like a very underrated palette. It's rarer, doesn't get the attention it deserves, but man, like for 3.9 WETH. So nothing crazy notable, but just a reaffirmation, at least for me, that take a look and WETH some stuff if you're in the market. You never know what happens.
100%. And I will add Life in West America had a bit of a run. Floor price went back up to 3.5, 8 sales there in the last week. Mind the Gap by Mount Vitruvius. Somebody swept 10. Somebody dumped a bunch of Bent by our friend Ip Sketch, who we just had a podcast with. Check it out. He's awesome. But some rare Bents got dropped, and a bunch of people bought those too. So there are deals out there. And I know you're saying we've been talking about deals for a long time. Just depends on your time horizon, right? We're talking 6, 9, 12 months out. So yes, in the last 3 months, these things may not have seemed like deals, but we really believe that there's true value there based on the merits of the art, the merits of the artists, and there's just so much progress still happening in the space under the hood that if you just look at these prices and whatnot, you're going to get a bit of a skewed perspective. So I would encourage people to broaden. How about FX hash, Jared? Anything
You
of
know,
note?
Yeah, I thought there was two things in particular that I wanted to highlight. Well, three really. One, MJ Lindau's Waiting in Afton had two sales. So this is a 50-piece set, and then all of a sudden you see two sales. I can't tell you the last time there's a sale. And it was really interesting. One at 2,000 Tez and one at 3,000 Tez. Oh, there you go. It's on screen. 4 months prior, so I thought that was a really intriguing sale because it jumped to number two for the last 7 days. Um, the other one that I wanted to touch on is I didn't want to say we told you so, but we told you so. That Reflejos went
Whoa,
off. Yeah,
I
it
didn't even see
was
this.
when we were talking about it, it was at 100 Tez last week, and there's only seven listed, and the floor jumped to 777 Tez with basically a lot of sales in the last 3 days between the 200 to 400. So again, I see this falling off the sales chart, the attention going away, but man, it's a beautiful project. There's a couple tickets that have been unclaimed. I'm gently stalking those. So anybody listening to the pod right when this releases, maybe we'll be battling for those unclaimed tickets. But I thought there's a really, really interesting attention that went there. And again, Juan's project, I think it's his first one on Tez, just something I've been really, really focused on. And again, heavy bias. I own three of them, full disclosure. And then the last point was seeing the resurgence in Zancan. I can't tell if it is a symptom of his exposure in bright moments or just some really dope art, but like seeing KGMs come back to life with two sales and the floor jumping on that. I've been DMing with a bunch of people on Twitter about Zancan and KGM specifically. So I don't know, man. It feels like it's probably premature to say this, but Zancan just feels like the goat of Tezos art, and it's just consistently, in the top five, top 10, and you see it consistently week over week. I mean, I couldn't be more bullish at these prices on Zancan. And
Yeah,
full
I
disclosure,
don't.
my bags are oriented that way too, right? So I do have a bias.
Yeah, and I own a couple of bug forests with Zank, and I don't have as many as you, but I don't think it's premature to say that. I mean, he's clearly the most popular artist on the Tezos side, and even very popular in the Ethereum side. Actually, I was mentioning to you, recorded an interview with Art Matter where he did a show there at NFT NYC, and the love for Zancan is quite universal. And great call on Reflejos. I do not own any, but kudos to those who do, including you. See this, people. This is what I'm talking about. The 8 NAP digital asset fund. Give him a ring. He's also a master at squiggles. What is going on in the squiggle world?
Well, as predicted or potentially forecasted last week, the sales and volume dropped off steeply. I mean,
Yeah, you can see it right here.
510 last week, dropped 149 ETH in 7-day volume this week, and then everything falls. The cool thing that was really, I'll call it validating, is even with the steep drop off in sales and volume, the floor price has more or less maintained 9.1 versus 9 this week. And then from a highlights perspective, man, it's pretty paltry out there. The only things I felt bad because I was trying to help somebody buy some stuff at the floor, and literally we got a direction on things, and then two things moved right away. And what I wanted to point out is there are, things being listed at or close to the floor that are multiples of the floor, or lower than the traditional multiple of the floor. What do I mean by that? Day zeros typically trade 10 to 20% higher. You can find them close to the floor. Fuzzies usually trade at 30 to 40% the floor. You can find them lower. So I think that there's a real good opportunity if you're willing to jump the floor a little bit, and you have the patience. There's some really good deals out there. But other than that, man, it's just been um, nothing too crazy. No great notable sales. But the good news is I don't think it goes down much from this. So I'm looking for a pickup next week. Slight
Yeah,
pick, I should say.
Squiggles on sale, which is great for those who have liquidity. Unfortunately, that's not me. But if you do, check them out. It's a good time. Okay, let's talk about friendship bracelets. Friendship bracelets have slowed down a bit in ways, I should say. So sales were 162 compared to, actually, it's up 162 compared to 121 last week. Volume is 29 Ether compared to 20 last week, although floor price has dipped to 0.12. And listings are about the same. I can tell you in a second here. Got to check Blur because that's where a lot of the volume is, and we will be talking about Blur shortly. But essentially, it's pretty consistent. Yeah, listings down to 2451 on Blur compared to 2571 last week. So listings are down too. Look, the floor is thin on all of these things. That's another thing I want to just impress to people. We'll be talking about some of these art blocks curated later, but we're talking like 5% listed. When these things move, they will move. And I don't know if your boy Seed Phrase said that on I don't know why I said your boy, but I don't know if Seed Phrase said that on the podcast, but with
That's actually
overpriced JPEGs.
it's a
But
point he made, and it's a point that I think is very valid. And I was gonna kind of talk about it later on in the pod. It's something I'm noticing, and I won't give away all the projects that I'm tracking, but I mean, some of these floors are like you were talking about opening up. They're ungodly thin, and it's because people are looking for liquidity. You got one or two people like just chasing the bottom to try to get that next sale, and I think it's falsely lowering the floor. And for those who are astute, again, long term perspective, when the rush comes, it could be really really good.
100% agree.